Coming up on Battleground Wisconsin Now with Fraley and Opoien. Under the dome, Governor Evers vetoes the GOP tax cut. Outside the bubble, politicians react to the mass shooting in Milwaukee. And we analyze new poll results released just hours ago.
Welcome to Battleground Wisconsin Now with Fraley and Opoien. I'm Jessie Opoien, opinion editor at the Cap Times. And my co-host is Brian Fraley, president at Edge Messaging. Hey, Brian.
Hello, Jessie. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. Well, it's a big week, so let's dive right in. Big veto of the big tax cut. How's that playing underneath the dome?
Unsurprisingly, it is playing out on party lines. Democrats seem pretty supportive of this decision because they want to see the money going toward education and that tax cut, but Republicans say there's no room for compromise at this point. Governor Evers is still, sounds like, holding out for that, but I don't think the chances are too likely as the Assembly is not coming back and the Senate has got one more calendar on the session on the calendar.
Yeah, and the Republicans are looking forward to having a fall campaign about what to do with extra money.
Well, speaking of campaigns outside the bubble and inside the bubble, we're taking a look at the latest Marquette poll results. What are some key takeaways here? Who's in the lead?
Well, it's Bernie. Big results just released a few hours ago. Bernie Sanders at 29%. That's up 10% from January. Bloomberg coming in at 17. Those millions he's spending here paying off. That's up 11 points from last month. Where did they gain that from? Well, Vice President Biden sinks 8 points, goes from first to third. Now, of course, that could change if Biden gets a big win in South Carolina this weekend, and we'll see how Super Tuesday goes. But for now, that's what we're looking at. It's Bernie's to lose. It's pretty much what people thought. He has the Bernie Bros, the big brigade here in Wisconsin, and they're the most organized. Although I was up on the square this weekend and did see the Bloomberg office. I think it used to be some sort of kids experience.
It was a children's toy store. Yeah.
Yes, my 10-year-old daughter had it circled on her places to go, and went with my wife and my other daughter to it, and she now hates Mike Bloomberg.
Oh no!
She thinks he put the toy store out of business.
He bought the toy store out of business.
Some interesting head-to-heads here. The Democrat versus Trump. It's even, no matter who it is.
Everything's within the margin of error. It is fascinating to me to see. I mean, there's really no difference depending on the ideology of a candidate. There's no real advantage to being a liberal or a moderate. They're just kind of all evenly spread out.
Yeah, even though a lot of people in this poll self-describe themselves as more liberal. Look at this. It doesn't matter who the nominee. I mean, you can say there's a big difference between Sanders and Biden, right? On issues like, let's take something like socialism.
Sure. Let's take socialism.
People just don't care enough to make one separate from the other. Now, this is all before the Trump campaign dumps his billion on whoever the Dem nominee. There could be an argument to be made, unless some sort of global dynamics change with the economy and everything else, that might be the best any of these Democrats get, especially if this drags on forever.
This is the downside to it dragging on for Democrats, although it gives them a little less time for Trump to define a candidate against himself. But it's just really fascinating to see those matchups. Yeah.
Milwaukee could be a very interesting convention. So, Jessie, I pay close attention to the right direction, wrong track. It's something that I look at for every poll because it's a great way to judge the mood of the electorate at the moment. What did those numbers reveal?
So right now, 52% of voters say that the state's headed in the right direction. 39% say it's on the wrong track. And that really kind of tracks with where it's been for about the last year, with one exception. Just last month, right track was a little bit farther apart. So interesting to point out, though, right before Governor Evers was elected, most of the state still thought that the state was heading in the right direction. It was 55-40 right before Evers was elected, and it was 51-44 right before Walker was reelected in 2014. So it's not necessarily an indication that voters will not make a different choice for governor, that they're not necessarily giving credit to the legislature or the governor for that. But it is kind of where it's been for about the last year, generally favorable.
Yeah, when last month's poll came out and it was underwater by 1, I said that could be a blip, because there are statistical blips in polling, or it could be the start of a trend. And if it was the start of a trend, all incumbents, regardless of party, should be very concerned. Well, that's
right. And we know that Evers has a slightly higher favorability rating than the legislature right now, but both are pretty close on that middle ground favorability too.
You know, interesting, digging into the Marquette Law School poll numbers a little bit here, and pardon me as I look at my notes. Trump is underwater with independents, 35% favorable, 44% unfavorable. That is usually a terrible place to be. But once we get down to one Democratic nominee, whoever that nominee could also be underwater amongst independents. I would argue probably, definitely, if it's Sanders, probably if it's Warren and the others, that's something to look at. So Trump's data point there, it's in a vacuum. When you have an actual choice, that could change. And then his favorability on how he handles things. Foreign policy, -8, 43% approve, 51 disapprove. Economy, 56% approve. That's plus 15, only 41% disapprove. With all of that, his approval rating is 48. Trump's disapproval rating is 48. The exact same numbers as Obamacare.
I think there's a partisan difference there.
I mean, all the bad PR that Obamacare has received, being labeled as a train wreck, people not being happy with the state of healthcare right now. 48. We are in a polarized society.
Does not get more polarized than that.
So let's do what to watch out for. We try to end every week with giving a little insight about what people should look out for, and I'll start.
Sure.
Terrible tragedy in Milwaukee on Wednesday. The shooting at Miller Brewery. Gunman shoots 5 co-workers and himself. And before the families were notified, a lot of Democratic politicians were issuing press releases on gun control. Some thinly, some outright blaming Republicans, without knowing the specifics of the shooting. I will give a worthy credit to our governor, who was outstanding at the press conference last night. And people know I'm a critic of the Evers job approval and everything else, but he was great. He said he was going to pray. He was praying. He's going to pray with his wife. He's representing all of Wisconsin, and a lot of Democrats rip Republicans when they say thoughts and prayers. The governor hit the right tone. A lot of people didn't. And it's not only crass and really low. I think it's a political liability, because I think Republicans will love to run this fall all across Wisconsin, including in the Milwaukee area, on many Democrats' zeal for gun confiscation. And what are you looking for?
Well, I am keeping my eye on Super Tuesday. I would like selfishly for this to remain a messy field for a little bit longer, so that Wisconsin will become a little bit more relevant, because there's a good chance right now, the way that we see Bernie Sanders running ahead on so many fronts and so many of these caucuses and primaries, that he's going to keep racking up delegates. So watching out to see what happens on Tuesday, and selfishly hoping that we still matter on April 5th.
And you know who hopes we don't is Justice Daniel Kelly, who doesn't want 1.4 million Democrats voting in April.
True. Well, what do you say? Should we do it again next week?
I think it's a wrap. Let's do it again next week.
Sounds good.
All right. This is Brian Fraley for Jessie Opoien. This has been Battleground Wisconsin Now with Fraley and Opoien.